Next on Full Sail Live, are we close to a return of live sports? Discussions among the different leagues dominate the headlines, among them Major League Baseball, which took a big step Tuesday. Unfortunately, just not in the right direction. Could the season now be in jeopardy? The NHL and its players have agreed on a proposal to return. Could the NBA be next? Several ideas being discussed there. And the NFL owners met this week to discuss and approve rule changes for the 2020 season. We'll get into all that, plus much more coming up. Full Sail Live next. Welcome into the show. Michael Vick with you. Lots to cover on today's edition of Full Sail Live, and we're going to start with Major League Baseball's latest attempt at owners and players coming together on an agreement to kickstart the season. It's already been estimated that the league stands to lose about $4 billion if games are played without fans in the stadium, with teams like the Yankees and Dodgers expected to lose anywhere from $230 to $300 million each. Owners are already trying to figure out ways of curbing that number, and in doing so, under the long-awaited proposal Tuesday, the highest paid players would be making the most concessions, losing as much as 80% of their pay, while players making far less than that would retain about 90%. So basically, the more you make, the less you keep. As we look closer to exactly what that means, the plan says that players making in the range of about $500,000 to $1 million can keep more than 70% of their pay. For players making between $1 and $5 million, that number drops to 50%, 40% to players earning between $5 and $10 million. And players making north of $20 million per year would keep only about 20% of their salaries. As you might imagine, the players weren't too thrilled. In March, when it was determined that the season would be temporarily postponed, the agreed-upon deal was a 50% pay cut. Then just 2 weeks ago, the owners proposed a 50-50 revenue split. Now it seems that we're certainly nowhere close to an agreement. Max Scherzer, who's one of baseball's highest paid players and a member of the union's executive subcommittee, responded on Twitter late Wednesday night saying, quote, "After discussing the latest developments with the rest of the players, there's no further reason to engage with Major League Baseball in any further compensation reductions. We have previously negotiated a pay cut in the version of prorated salaries, and there's no justification to accept a second pay cut based upon the current information the union has received. I'm glad to hear other players voicing the same viewpoint and believe that Major League Baseball's economic strategy would completely change if all documentation were to become public information." I spoke with ESPN baseball insider Jeff Passan late last night and asked him about the impact that may have and what to expect now from the players.
Max Scherzer is one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a Cy Young Award winner multiple times. This is a guy who has gravitas and is not just a great player, but is an incredibly intelligent person too. And to have him coming out as strident as he was, as forceful as he was with this message, I think says a lot about the position of the players right now. They're mad. They're mad at the offer that Major League Baseball made, and they're not going to sit here and say, oh, we'll be conciliatory, we'll come and meet you in the middle. No. They want to go back to the player or to Major League Baseball and say, we're not going to accept this.
All right, so we have gotten a number of different perspectives today, and I want to bring in another one. I want to welcome in the host of the Turning Points podcast on Spotify and the series called Both Sides of the Story. He's also our baseball insider, Jake Rongholt. Jake, thanks for taking a couple of minutes of your time. How are you, bud?
I'm doing great, Michael. I hope everything is going well with you during this pandemic.
We're doing the best that we can.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's jump right into it. We got a couple of minutes here. I want to talk about this mess that has become baseball and trying to get back to playing. There was an agreement that was collectively bargained back in late March. I want to say March 27th by both the players and the owners. So why has it gotten this messy? Why have things become so complicated?
Well, what has happened is that the owners are realizing that they are losing money on this. They don't have concessions, they don't have ticket takers or anything like that. And they're just having issues with trying to figure out where the profit could come from. Their television contracts can only go so far. And now they're trying to come up with this, fantastical revenue sharing, which the players said absolutely not to.
Yeah, you mentioned the lack of revenue, of course, with the idea and prospects that we're not going to be with fans when and if baseball resumes. Cubs owner Tom Ricketts said that baseball stands to lose about $4 billion if there is no fans in the stands, saying that it's hard on teams like Cubs because 70% of their revenue does come from the game day tickets, merchandise, things of that nature. So how does this situation resolve itself if the players aren't set to take drastic pay cuts?
They need to figure out a way to, talk the players into getting out of that prorated salary state of mind. They have to figure out something, kind of like a sliding pay scale, but maybe like 30, 40% cut, because they haven't played any games. They haven't been paid for their services because there are no services to be paid for. Every time the players speak, they always have the right message, but the wrong words coming out of their mouths. I want baseball back, Michael. I really do. But the greed has to stop, and they have to get this figured out. Otherwise, we won't have any baseball.
Hey, as kind of a sidebar here, is this maybe the best thing in terms of baseball stories, things that we were looking to coming into the season? Is this maybe the best thing that happened to the Houston Astros?
In a way, yes, and in a way, no, because these players are not getting paid. But, the fact is that now the cheating scandal has kind of cooled off. So now you're not going to have all these angry fans. They're not going to go from, stadium to stadium where, all these hated fans are going to be booing them all the time, because there aren't going to be any fans going forward.
That is our baseball insider, Jake Rongholt, with both sides of the story and host of Turning Points podcast on Spotify. Jake, appreciate your time. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks, Michael.
Well, Major League Baseball certainly isn't the only league trying to figure things out. The NHL appears to be the closest, however. Both the league and the players have agreed on a format that would forfeit the remainder of the regular season and dive straight into the playoffs with a 24-team format instead of the standard 16 teams. Though not official, the agreement would also need to figure out health and safety protocols, as well as hammering out the details of exactly where these games would be held. A number of cities have already been approved, and the NHL is discussing whether the first and second round series of the playoffs would be the best of 5 or the best of 7. The conference finals and the Stanley Cup finals will be the best of 7 to be played in one of the 2 hub cities. As we continue trying to figure out exactly where we are with resuming each respective league, lots of ideas are being publicly tossed around to bring back the NBA. But according to early reports, the league is not expected to finalize a return to play plan during Commissioner Adam Silver's Board of Governors meeting on Friday. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski has more on what options are currently on the table for a return.
Really 3 primary plans of a return to play this season. Playing out the regular season schedule as far as they can to like a 72-game total for teams, then going to the playoffs, a play-in tournament that might include the 7 through 10 seed, possibly the 7 through 12 seeds. And so those are the focuses right now for the league, the Players Association, general managers call on Thursday, and the Board of Governors, essentially the owners, on Friday with Adam Silver.
As you were just watching that clip, we literally have breaking news coming in here to Full Sail Live. Sources telling us that the NBA's Board of Governors meeting will meet again next Thursday ahead of a likely approved vote to have Disney's ESPN Wide World of Sports in Orlando, Florida play host to 22 teams. The games would likely include regular season games as well as play-in games. So again, nothing is expected to be finalized at Friday's meeting, but by next Thursday, we could have a deal in place to bring back the NBA. And this is, again, breaking here on Full Sail Live. Woj will likely have more here in the coming hours. We'll look forward to what he learns as the NBA plans its return. In NFL news now, the owners met Thursday to approve new rule changes for the upcoming season. A number of ideas getting floated around this week. In the end, 3 rule changes made the cut. One that coach Bill Belichick may not like, as it eliminates what he called the dead ball loophole, in essence manipulating the clock with dead ball penalties. Oddly enough, the potential rule changes getting the most attention were both tabled, namely the rule that would have allowed teams to forego the onside kick in favor of a 4th and 15 opportunity from their own 25, that of course to get the ball back. And after 1 year of pass interference instant replay that was called, quote, an utter failure, it was not renewed after only 1 year, leaving the possibility open to instead approve the Sky Judge rule that would create an 8th man in the booth using replay technology to help get the call right. Though both of these proposals weren't voted down but rather tabled, it leaves open the probability for discussion the next year. Sky Judge will, however, be experimented with during the NFL's preseason after getting high praise during its use with both the AAF and the XFL. And that is the perfect segue into our weekly tech review, where we examine the latest in technology and specifically Hawkeye cameras. With 60 HD images and various angles per second, it would give NFL officials independence from the broadcast networks. They don't have to wait on them for the timing of the angles, and operated from a centralized computer system, they can bring in multiple camera feeds with as many as 10 high-resolution angles to get the call right. It's been deployed in tennis, aiding with the in and out calls for years, as well as being used in the MLS. And now Major League Baseball is strongly considering using it for its replay system with tracking data synced to the feed. With Hawkeye technology, you have every possible angle covered, so it only makes sense that if we want these games officiated as accurately as possible to ensure that we don't have another Saints-Rams debacle, that this technology be highly considered in the NFL's instant replay. Well, that's all the time that we have today, folks. Join us again tomorrow at 9 a.m. as we'll have the very latest from around the leagues, as it is a very fluid situation. I'm Michael Vick. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.